We all want to know that we matter. We all want to know that we're loved. We all want to feel safe. We all want to make a difference in the world, I feel. So if we look at everybody from that point of view, that we're not that different human beings, and we are pack animals.
Hi, welcome to Quest for Peace. My name is Saju, and I'm your host. Today, we have an amazing returning guest, Burge Smith-Lyons. She's the founder of Essence of Being since 1981. She has taught life transformational workshops for thousands of men, women, children, and companies on 6 continents. She has launched the Conscious Leadership Academy in North America, Africa, Asia, and Europe, and the founder of Healing Forest Foundation. She is a channel of Shamanasta, certified rebirther, hypnotherapist, intuitive healer, and ordained minister. My goodness, what an accomplishment. Hello, Burge, and welcome back. It's so wonderful to have you here today, once
Thank
again.
you. Thank you, Saju. I'm so thrilled to be back. I can't wait to play some more.
Yeah, you teach so many things that if I brought you back 10 times, you'll have 10 different topics to talk about. So, so here we are with another exciting topic. And I think what you chose today is essence of peaceful and conscious communications, correct?
Yes,
And
yes, yes.
tell us why you chose this.
Well, for instance, I feel like it's really relevant on how to have peaceful and conscious communications with people, especially about what's going on in the world right now in the US and really around the world. How to connect with people and be respectful and have empathy and come to resolution, so that we're not at each other's throats and having all these conflicts. And I feel like it's invaluable to learn, perhaps even in your own relationships that you have with your family or your business or anywhere, especially around politics. You might be in disagreement a lot of times. And how do you listen and how can you be heard, and how that reverb really reveals a lot of things about perhaps how you deal with all kinds of communication, and how to, I'm going to give you tools that you can use to perhaps think about the next time when you are having a conversation with someone, and how to approach them and hear them, and for you to feel understood as well.
Well, I mean, 100%. And it's so important to communicate clearly and well with love, with peace, at the same time, having boundaries for yourself, and there's so many things, and yet you can have boundaries and not, make it a rude way of doing anything. So there's so much to learn in this process. And I'm so glad you're here to teach us.
Well, we can teach each other. So I'm just going to be sharing some things. And those of you who are listening or watching, you might want to get something to write with so you can play along with us when we do that experiential option, for you to kind of see what's going on in your subconscious around communications, because the subconscious is what I call the bubble talk. It's the bubble above our head, like a cartoon character. That's what our subconscious is thinking. And sometimes it's not aligned with what our words are saying. And the first thing I want to say about all of this is there's so many different ways to communicate, isn't there?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think what I want to start with is a lot of people nowadays, especially young people, they only communicate with words. In other words, with a text, with an email, with a TikTok, with what, it's basically anytime that you are just looking at words when you're texting someone or you are emailing. Have you ever been misunderstood by those texts?
Absolutely, all the time. And I don't like texting. I guess I'm from that generation that just can't articulate what I'm trying to say in a text, and
Well, it's it,
they take it
yeah,
in a wrong way and not what you're trying to, even if you use all those emojis, it's still
right. How do you communicate with an emoji? It's fascinating to me because really, when you talk about words, that's only 7% of communication. 7%. And it's no wonder that people get misunderstood or they're not clear. And a lot of things can happen when you're just using 7% of your communication things that you have available to you. The 38% of communication is your tone. So I always say pick up the phone and get the tone at least. And like you said, we're of the generation where, the phones were it, right, for a while. There wasn't any email, there wasn't texting and all of that. But the phone is at least you're getting a tone because you can say, pass the salt, you know, as you write it down or you're saying it in the phone. But they understand that tone, or you can say, pass the salt. And it's a totally different tone. And it adds to the actual essence of your communication. And of course, you know what the big one is, right? The big kind of communication that you
the
can have.
expression. Yeah.
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 The body language. I mean, that's
Yes.
why I love Zoom and this kind of thing that we're doing on YouTube. And when you're in person, when you're actually in person with someone, that's 55% is your body language. So again, if it's not all aligned and it's not congruent, for instance, if you're standing there like this saying, I love you, you know, it's not congruent with the words, right? So body language is huge and it is a way of communicating that really goes through words and tone. So being mindful of that, knowing that if you're with someone and you're in front of them, and if you're not able to be in front of them, doing it this way on YouTube or Zoom or something, at least you can see their face and their body language somewhat, and certainly their tone and the words. And so the message here is be congruent
Mhm.
with all of those ways. So that is my first set of opportunities for us to understand that a lot of people hide behind the words. They text or they hide behind the screen and they post, and that's their only communication. And it's frustrating to me at times when people choose that because it can be very misleading and misunderstood.
Also, I feel that with texts, you tend to get away by saying something because nobody's looking at you or they don't see you, so you're kind of like hiding, and you can say whatever you want,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Absolutely. You can say all of the things that you would never say to someone to their face. It's that authentic feeling that you have with them. So it's an escape. They're able to be hidden and they can escape behind that screen. And unfortunately, oftentimes there's a lot of things that are said that really would not have been said if you were together with someone. So I wanted to give you 5 different things that we can do to be effective communicators and be conscious around them,
Okay.
and give you those 5 things to be mindful of. And then we do a little process to
Okay.
see. Okay. So the first one is to be present and listen. The In order to have effective communication and be conscious around it is be present with them and actively listen to what they're saying. A lot of times people have these blocks to listening. They're not really hearing anything. Think about a relationship. It doesn't have to be just on the internet, but if you're in a relationship with someone and you know them well and you're not even listening to what they're saying because you're rehearsing what you're going to say, that's a block. That's a block to listening. That's one block is you rehearse. Hurry up and say what you're going to say because I know what you're going to say and I know what I'm going to say after what you're going to say. So you're not really actively present and listening to them. That's one block.
Well,
Another block, go ahead.
so that is the same for the other person. If I'm waiting, I'm not listening to you, and I'm waiting for me to speak, and then if I speak, you're not really listening to me because you're thinking of. So there's no communication, real communication and listening happening It's all about me
Correct.
and I, and it's not about what's the topic. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. The other thing that we do when we block listening and being present is oftentimes we will check out. We're thinking about something else. We're thinking, did we leave the coffee pot on when someone's telling us their deepest, darkest, whatever secret or something they're trying to share with us and tell us? And oftentimes we're not even listening. We do that with our kids, I'm sure. Just, did I leave the coffee pot on? I have a hurry up. I have a call at 3 o'clock, so we get distracted and we're not really present. That's another way that we block listening. But one of my favorite blocks, or favorite, but something that happens frequently, is judging.
Mm.
We judge what other people are saying before we even give them an opportunity to say. And of course, because a lot of us are in these bubbles, especially like I said, in the US and also in other countries, but we're in these bubbles and these silos and we're not listening to each other. And we start judging them before they even say anything. And the judgment can block you from really getting the essence of what they are trying to say, or the communication and the feeling behind the words. And it's really important. So that whole piece is really just learning how to be present and how not to block listening. And it's really, if you could just open yourself up to just telling yourself, I choose to be present with this person right now and really listen, then the empathy chip, I call it, will come up. Your empathy towards someone is listening to them first before you have to justify or say whatever it is that you want to say. Whether or not they're willing to do that or not doesn't matter. What matters is what you are willing to do for you, because that's the second thing in this process is take responsibility for your communication.
Mm.
So many people are not doing that and they don't know how to do that. They want to blame other people. They want to justify themselves. And when you do that, you're giving your power away. You're saying to another person, you have power over me and it's your fault. It's your fault that you're not listening, or it's your fault that you can't understand me. And what you're doing is you're saying you're a victim and there's nothing you can do to change it. And that puts you in a really uncomfortable position. And so you either want to fight your way through it, or you run and hide, or you just freeze and not speak at all and numb out. So
So,
that's this, yeah,
what did you mean? Can you give me an example of taking responsibility for your listening? Is that what
communication.
communication?
Communication,
Hmm.
right? You're responsible for your thoughts, your beliefs, your actions,
Okay.
and your communication. That's something you can change. That's something you can control. You can change your thoughts, you can change your beliefs, you can change your actions, and you can change how you communicate. You can't change anybody else. So taking
Mm.
responsibility is freedom. It's a freedom to choose to uplift yourself to a status of really taking your power back so you're not feeling like you're a victim. This is true for anything in your life. You can take responsibility, but specifically about communication, you can just say, I choose to speak differently and I choose to listen more. I mean, that's huge. That's a big freedom that can perhaps mitigate any kind of conflict that it would really get worse and worse and worse and worse, and then you explode. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
that's the second step. The third step for being effective communicator um, is to tell your truth with compassion. Many people can tell their truth, perhaps, maybe, but they bully. They say it in a forceful way, or they try to bully themselves and tell their truth about how they feel or what's right and what's wrong, and they do it in with no compassion. And there are other people out there that are totally afraid to speak their truth because they've been told to shut up. They've been told from a very early age that they don't matter. Children are seen and not heard, right? We
Yep.
learn that at a very young age. And oftentimes we might feel afraid to speak up and tell our truth and have the courage to say what we feel because perhaps we've been hurt in the past. And that's part of what the subconscious belief that could block us from really telling our truth and standing out and having a voice. And what's beautiful Saju, right now, there's so many people that are coming out and standing up and having a courageous voice now and telling their truth, but always remember to do it with compassion
Compassion.
for yourself and others.
Yes,
That is what you were
absolutely.
talking about, being able to have compassion for yourself and do it with, what is the word you used? Not empathy, but it was learning
The
how to have
boundaries.
boundaries,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Have boundaries to tell your truth, but do it with compassion. That's the third step. The fourth step is one of the tools that I always say to use is if that is you, and if you're afraid to speak up or tell your truth, you can say, for me, the truth is. So people cannot argue that that's not your truth. So if you start every sentence that you feel is going to be in a contentious type of relationship or a communication, you can say, for me, the truth is, and then say it. So they may not agree with what you're saying, but they cannot argue that that's not your truth or what you believe. And it's really cool how that works. If you say that first, it also teaches them that they can say it that way as well. They can go, oh, well, for me, the truth is this. So you're not saying what you are believing is wrong. You're just saying this is something that is true for me.
It's a compassionate way of saying it as well. As you said, you're not attacking someone. You're just telling them, well, this is my truth. Maybe it's not your truth. Maybe you don't believe or you don't agree with what I'm saying, but
Right.
this is my truth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's really cool when you're in a conflict when you can really say it that way because, again, you're setting the tone of how to speak with conscious, peaceful, authentic communication. So that's the fourth one. The fifth one is understand the difference between advice and story and truth. And I know that truth right now for many people is a conundrum. It's like, what is truth? And people have different truths. Okay. So we start talking about facts, right? What different facts, but we're not going to go there. But just to understand the difference between giving somebody advice and telling your story. A lot of times, people that really want to make a difference in the world, they want to give advice. They're coaches or trainers or healers, or just they care about somebody. And oftentimes, people don't want advice. The best way to ask for that is to say, "Can I give you some feedback?" Or may I give you some feedback?
That sounds
And
good.
yeah, so
Easy. May I give you some?
they're giving you permission.
Yes.
So you want to ask permission to give advice because sometimes people don't even want that. They just want to be heard. They don't want to fix it. They don't want to know. They just want to be heard sometimes. And so you can always say, may I give you some feedback? That'll let you know if it's okay to give your advice or if they're even asking for it. The story part of it is a lot of times, have you ever talked to people and they go into what's bothering them or they have some kind of issue and you say, oh, yeah, you think you got it bad. Let me tell you about my story. I mean, so you go into your story about, you go into comparing about which stories are worse or better.
Competition.
Yes.
What a
And
thing to
that does,
compete about.
people do that though,
Yes.
or they go into a story about, for instance, my husband, he doesn't want for me to go into the story about what I did all day today and go and he doesn't want the details. He just wants to know, go right to the point and don't put all that story behind it. So I know that that's how he receives communication because we've learned this being together for so long. We know how to communicate with each other. So I know that that's something that he doesn't necessarily hear. Okay. So I just go straight to the point and tell my truth with compassion and not go into the story. So that's another way that you can just go into a story and not really getting right to the truth. And so that's what I'm talking about, is just understanding the differences between story, advice, and truth.
Truth. I
Okay.
got it. Yes.
Yeah. So let's play. So there's
Okay.
five, those are the five different ways of communicating as far as being a conscious communicator that might be more effective. And then I want us to go into do a little bit of subconscious digging around in there to see what your beliefs are around communication or how it's showing up in your life, and kind of play with that a minute. And then I'll go through some different techniques and things around how to deal with conflict productively. Okay.
Beautiful. Yes.
All right. Cool. So this is stream of consciousness writing. And what that means is that you just finish the sentence. I'm going to say a sentence and you say the very first things that come up. You could write this down. It can be 1 or 2 words or a sentence or just whatever it is that you want to write down. Those of you listening, or you could just blurt it out if you want to, Saju, as we're playing.
Okay.
And you just finish the sentence, okay?
Okay.
And it's the first thing that comes up. Don't edit it. Don't try to figure it out, okay?
Okay.
Don't think about it too hard. Here we go. All right. When I feel not heard, I...
Get very angry.
Okay. When I feel not seen, I...
Feel sad.
Okay. When I feel not understood, I
try and explain myself.
try and explain. Okay. All right. So what you said was, when I feel not heard, I feel angry. So can you remember the first time or sometime in your life around your parents, your mom or your dad, or when you were very young, not feeling heard by them or teachers or siblings or culture or religion?
Most probably would be around siblings because we're so many of us. So yeah.
Okay. So when I feel not heard, I get angry. So when you get angry, what does that look like? What do you do?
I just don't talk. I walk away.
So you shut down and walk away.
Yes.
Okay. So that swallows the resentment,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
You feel it. And so that resentment doesn't go anywhere because you swallowed it. And a lot of people do that. We will just, instead of engaging any kind of confrontation or sharing what we feel, we walk away. Okay. So that's that freeze, flight, or fight. So you flee.
Yes.
Meaning that you'd rather not confront someone about how you feel. So that anger really never goes anywhere. And can you see how this started at a very young age? This was a mechanism that you used to stay safe and used it as a mechanism to feel somewhat less exposed, because if you actually said what you felt, who knows what would have happened. But this is something
Yes.
that carries over in relationship after relationship from a very young age until you shift it.
Right.
Okay. So what about the sad part? When I feel not seen, you said I feel sad. Where does that come from?
I think again, childhood. I think again with having so many, sisters and a brother, there's competition, and when you're not heard and not seen, you do get upset. So one gets me angry, but the other one makes me feel sad. That I'm not seen.
And so what that looks like is the same thing, like I guess what you're speaking of is you go away and hide, or you go away and sit in that sadness and make up stories about yourself that you don't matter.
Until recently.
I know, I know.
This is all from before. Until recently.
Yes. With essence of being, yes.
Yes,
That's part of
absolutely.
what we share with people is all of
Yes.
these really cool experiences that you can have. So, yeah, until recently is a great reframe.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a one. Thank you for saying that, because it's a
You're
wonderful
welcome.
reframe. When you find out what your subconscious beliefs are, you can say, until recently, now I choose to what? What do you choose to do now when you feel not seen or heard?
I would
That's
I
very
will speak up, speak my truth.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it can be that simple. And I understand for most of it, it's not easy.
Mm-hmm.
But the more you practice this and the more you step into reframing it,
Mm-hmm.
it gets easier and easier and easier. And then you become a master at it. And then it's not as critical or traumatic as it was when you were younger. And the last one was, when I feel not understood, I try to explain myself, right?
Yes.
So how does that show up when you try to explain yourself?
Well, and when someone is not understanding me, I will repeat myself or say, hey, this is what I was trying to say. This is what
Okay.
I'm trying to say.
And that's a great thing to say. Here's one thing, it's another little tool I'm going to give you. What I heard you say was,
Ah,
that's a tool that you can teach others, right? So if they don't
right.
understand you, or if you don't understand them, you can use those words. What I heard you say was, because a lot of times we filter what we hear from other people based on
Right.
our own belief system. And it's fascinating to me because I do a lot of relationship counseling where the partners do not hear each other and do not take each other's word for it. In other words, they filter everything. And so when you're in a relationship, or when you're in a, whether it's business or personal, when you feel not understood, oftentimes what you can say is just teach each other to say, well, what I heard you say was, it's a form of mirroring, is what they call it. You mirror each other so that you can get clear about what it is that they actually said, not what you thought they said or what you filtered behind it, what
Can
they think they meant.
can we give an example to the audience as how that is done? Maybe you
Sure.
and I can
Yeah.
play.
Play with
Um,
it. Okay. So let's say that we're having a business relationship, okay? And I say to you, I want you to I really want you to listen to what I'm saying, because this is going to save us a lot of money. So you could say,
so what I'm hearing you say is that you would like me to listen to you so it would save us a lot of money.
great. Tell me more is another thing you can say right after that.
Tell me more.
Yeah.
Okay.
So instead of saying, well, what do you mean? What do you mean saving? Aren't we saving money now?
Mm,
What? So a lot of people get really
defensive.
upset before yeah. It's
Yeah.
like, what are you saying, that I don't know what I'm doing about
Mm.
money? You see how that could filter? And instead, you said, well, what I heard you saying was, this is something we could do to help save money. And so it eased any tension that could happen from anyone getting defensive around it. So you did it perfectly. And then if you're still not understanding, you could always say, tell me more. Because if you ask people yes or no questions, that's all you're going to get, is yes or no
Got it.
questions, is yes or
Okay.
no answers. But that was brilliant. That was a great way just to ease any kind of conversation around it, instead of reading into it like, are you saying that I don't know what I'm doing around money? You see how people can get really
Yeah.
defensive, and that's not what I said at all, and that's certainly not what I meant.
This happens so often, only because we all come from our past or what we go through, and then we become everything becomes personal, and then we have to learn not to take things personally, understand the other person is probably coming from their backgrounds and their issues, but we tend not to do that. So this is such an amazing practice that you will really calm everything down right away. You're not accusing, you're not fighting, you're just trying to get clarity. So this is what I'm hearing. Tell me more. Am I right? And maybe I'm hearing it wrong, and maybe the other person, no, that's not what I said. This is what
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
trying to say. So it's so very nicely done. I love it.
yeah, yeah. What I heard you say was, right. And if you're not clear, this is the other piece about it, is ask clarifying questions. So if you are afraid to ask a question to someone, and you're in a conversation or a business meeting or just a relationship, or in some kind of experience where it could get contentious, you could say, I have a clarifying question. So it's, a lot of people are afraid to ask questions because they don't want to appear stupid. They don't want to appear like they don't know,
Right.
right?
Right.
So if you ask it in that way and you say, I have a clarifying question, that puts the onus on the communicator. That puts the onus on the person that just spoke. you're not accusing anybody. You're not saying I'm dumb. You're just saying I need some clarification. And it's a very neutral way of asking for clarification for the person who's speaking and the person who's listening. So you don't feel ashamed or afraid to get more clarity, because clarity leads to power, my friend.
It sure does. Yes,
Getting clear is really important.
it is.
Yes.
Yes.
And here's another tool that's really cool in communication is you can always, if you're not sure, should I say this or not? Or, if you're learning how to be responsive as opposed to being reactive, okay? Instead of just doing a knee jerk response about something, just to respond in a different way, you can say these four things. You can ask yourself, will this serve to say it? Who will it serve? How will it serve? And what is the highest good for all concerned? So
Wow.
if you're getting like a little tummy, you get a little tummy thing going, meaning that you start tingling like, oh God, I don't know if I should say this or not. Or, you might be questioning
Mm.
how to communicate in a certain way. And just ask yourself that. Will this serve to say it? Who will it serve? How will it serve? And what's the highest good for all concerned? You could probably save a lot of fights that way.
Yes.
And it's a different thing instead of saying, I'm going to keep it inside and I'm going to swallow my resentment. It's a conscious choice that you're making. You know what? This is not serving anybody to say that. It might serve me for a little while to feel like I'm right. But what's the highest good for all concerned?
Wow.
So I feel like that is a really cool little technique you can use to learn a little bit more about how to respond instead of react. Because I think so many of us want to react, don't we? I
Right.
know I do.
Yeah. And so you're not stuffing it in like the emotion. You are talking about it with yourself and deciding that it is not worth your while if you decide that it's not worth your while to say, unless you do feel that it does serve a highest good by saying something, then you use compassion and love to say it.
Exactly. You got it. You got it.
I got
You're
it.
you're an often conscious communicator. So absolutely. So yeah, so these are little tools you can use. And so what I want to do is kind of go over several things about how to create more empathy and have a conscious way of communicating and be at peace with so many conflicts in the world, and not be afraid to, a lot of us will avoid confrontation. And like you said, that's been learned when you were younger to avoid that, but it doesn't go anywhere. So a lot of people don't understand the difference, I think, between compromise and resolution. What I mean by that is oftentimes when you're with a group or when you're in a whatever setting, whether it's business or a relationship at home or something, and you want to compromise, you say, all right, well, I'll give in this time, but next time you owe me.
Heavy energy.
Yeah. So it's like a lot of us, we think, oh, all right, we'll just come to a compromise so we don't have a conflict. Okay. I'll just go away and just whatever, whatever. And what that does is it sets it up in a way where it's more transactional next time. So, especially in a relationship, whether it's family or a mate relationship, you say, okay, I'll give in this time, but next time you owe me and it's my turn to be right. Because a lot of people really want to be right and validated for their opinions and how they feel. Now, it's a different energy to validate someone's feelings than invalidating them for their opinions. It's a different kind of energy. So if you say to me, I want to have steak tonight. So I don't want to have steak tonight. Well, I do. Well, I don't. So people get into these conversations about, well, steak's not good for you. Yes, it is. No, it's not. Yes, it is. No, it's not. And so you get into this right wrong thing and you might give in. You say, well, next time we're going to do what I want to do. So it just sets it up to feel like you're still not honoring your own boundary when you do that. Does that make sense?
Yes. So what do you do instead?
So what you do instead, I'm glad you asked, is that you come to a resolution, and it feels incredibly different. And what that means is you agree to the decision. You may not agree with their opinion or what they're saying, but you agree to the decision, and you have consensus, and you come to that resolution where you say, okay, we're going to have steak tonight, and I agree with that decision tonight. And that's a resolution energy or feeling behind it. Is you haven't given in, you're just agreeing with the decision,
So,
as opposed to giving in and saying they're right and you're wrong.
so how would you do this? Now you're having this conversation that I want to eat steak and you don't, or vice versa. Would you do something like this? So, from what I'm hearing, is that you really like steak. Tell me more. Why do you like it so much? And maybe have that conversation
Sure.
and understand why Burge wants steak and I don't. Talk about it and say, okay, at the end, maybe make a decision. Maybe Burge will decide to say, you know what, I understand that you like chicken more, and let's do that instead. Or just a conversation with love and respect and understanding. That what you
Yeah,
mean
you
to
can
just
really, absolutely. You can really dig into it, Saju, that way and change minds if you choose to. But it's the most important part about this is that you agree to the decision. It doesn't make you right and the other person wrong.
right.
And not hold it over their head or hold it over your own head where you feel wrong. And unfortunately, many people they're not understanding what synergy is like, where you have a connection that everybody can be heard and you can agree to a decision, even though you might disagree with what they're saying.
I
And
sorry,
Brett,
I had something happen to me recently, and I understand what you're saying about it hanging over your head. When I had a discussion, I ended up giving in just to keep the peace. And
right.
I left that conversation feeling horrible about myself that, oh, I gave in. And once again, I did not respect myself and my boundaries. And that's really, you're disrespecting yourself by allowing that. So if I would have had a different kind of conversation and I had decided and made the same decision, but in a different way, it would not have made me feel so bad the all next day and ruminating over what I did.
Exactly. Exactly. And to be able to say it with, you know what, I disagree with what they're saying, but I'll agree to the decision that we made. And you're understanding, you're coming to that resolution where there's not a charge. In other words, you don't have an emotional charge behind it anymore.
Yeah.
Like you said, you ruminated on it for however many days, and that can happen. And so if you're able to come to a resolution where you feel like you can agree, a lot of people say, we'll just agree to disagree. That's a little further. That's better. That's coming into a little more of a resolution where you're saying that, but you're definitely not giving in to saying, well, they're right and you're wrong, and then you just beat yourself up for days.
But even the word I agree to disagree sounds a little bit rough, right? Like it sounds
Yeah.
harsh.
Can we agree to disagree? Now, that is a stepping stone toward coming to learn how to fight to come to a resolution where you feel clear and clean and neutral about the decision.
Yeah. It takes practice.
It does. And so you want to avoid arguing for your own justification, because that doesn't really, uh, people block you out anyway. Oftentimes, if they really dig their heels in, they're
Mm.
not going to hear what you're saying. And don't assume that someone has to win and someone has to lose. in a conversation or communication. How about, as Buckminster Fuller says, which is someone that we work with a lot in his teachings, is that win-win. How can we have a win-win experience? What's more important, me being right or being happy? What's more important, our relationship or me winning this argument?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's nuances here. And don't change your mind just to avoid the conflict is my suggestion. Because it does. It sets you up to feel bad about yourself. Because differences of opinion are expected and natural. I mean, it's a natural thing. But to seek resolution and not compromise, I think, is a key.
Well, we are such diverse, different personalities, a whole world, and there's no other person exactly like us. So we cannot expect to to have that kind of, the same thought patterns, the same thinking. We all have our own experiences that we go through in our life. And this is the product of all those experiences that we are right now. So accepting the other person is very important because they have their thoughts and we have our thoughts, and nobody's good or bad or right or wrong. We all just are products of our past, and it's okay. It's okay for everyone to have their opinions, and nobody should, not everyone has to agree with us.
Well, and of course, we see that in politics right now, and that just not even politics, but just the divisiveness of so many, the energy is so intense sometimes around that, and learning how to cooperate. If we, if we can't learn how to cooperate with each other and the world, then it's definitely not going to end well. And the cooperation model is something that we've been working toward, and essence of a being and conscious leadership academy and all the things that we do is learning how to cooperate. But you have to have 1 ounce of something in order to cooperate. You know what it is? It's a T word.
1 ounce of trust.
Yes. Yes, my friend. We have to have, in order to cooperate with someone, we have to have just a little bit, tiny little bit of trust, that to open ourselves up to allowing ourselves to trust that what we're saying and what they're saying and who we are and who they are, that we can learn how to be with each other in a cooperative nature. Nature's like that. Nature is very cooperative. And it's this whole, if we look at nature as a model, a lot of people say to me, yeah, Burge, but there's a lot of people who die and you win and lose a lot, it's like but if you look at the whole picture of what someone gives their life, or the plant gives their life, or their animal gives their life, it's cooperative in the grand scheme of things, meaning there's not a vacuum here. It's like, the thing is, we can actually learn how to, if we look at it from a bird's eye view, that from a synergistic point of view, we can learn how to trust each other just a little bit, that it's going to be okay as long as we're all on a similar trajectory. And what I mean by that is, we all want to know that we matter. We all want to know that we're loved. We all want to feel safe. So these things, we all want to make a difference in the world, I feel. So if we look at everybody from that point of view, that we're not that different human beings, and we are pack animals. We do. It's very, the isolationism has really changed a lot of perspectives for people when they isolate. With the pandemic and any of the other things that happen, we want to be able to connect. They've done so many studies around birth about just connection and being able to touch somebody and having that, the pheromones. I mean, it's a physiological thing, not only just emotional, but it's a connection. If we all know that we're all, listen, we're all beings we're all soulful beings in these bodies, and we're all connected somehow. So if we can seek that out, as opposed to seeing what's so different about us and just honoring the differences, then it kind of eases, I think, our intensity levels when we're with each other. So I feel that that's important for us to remember, that we are connected.
We are, and I love what you said about that we all need love, and we all, what are the three things? We all need love.
Well, we
We
all
all,
we all want to know that we matter.
mhm.
We all want to know that we're loved. We all want to know that we're safe and
Yes,
that we make a difference. Everybody wants that. I don't care where
everyone.
you come from. I don't care
Yes,
what your background is, or if you live in a hut in the Serengeti. Everybody wants the same thing, to know that. And so, attacking, if you want to attack something, attack the problem, not the people. In other words, attack the issue, not
mm,
not the person, and express our feelings in a non-blaming way. So, sharing how you feel about anything, always use I words. I feel, I know, I think, not you made me feel, you are this, you are that. So instead of coming from the point of view, pointing our finger at somebody and saying you are causing this, look inside and say, what can I change that's different in me? What's something that I can say? This is how I feel. This is how I know things. I think this. This is what I think. So if you could have communication in a non blaming way, that's huge. To start with, just use I words. Remember, just I'm going to use my I words.
I words. So instead
Yeah.
of saying you make me angry, say I feel very angry when I hear these words,
Yes.
right? Instead of saying
Yeah.
you're saying I.
Yeah. When I
Yeah.
hear these words, I feel very angry. And you can give a why if you want, if you know what the why is. But what you're doing is you're teaching others how to be conscious when you are conscious. I know a lot of people say, well, how come I'm always the one that has to take the high road, or, has to be conscious about it? And so that, because you're teaching other people how to do that, they're learning through your demonstration. And so we suggest that as conscious leaders in the world, we demonstrate how to have conscious, peaceful communication and take ownership. Take ownership and responsibility for your part. For your part. You can't change anybody else's feelings or thoughts, or really, you're not in control of that, and you're not responsible for that. You're only responsible for your own thoughts, beliefs, actions, and communication. And that's something that you have control over. You can actually shift that. And another thing I'd say to people is listen and seek the understanding, perhaps, of another person's point of view before you justify your own.
Say that again. Listen.
Listen and seek to understand the other person's point of
Point of
view
view.
before justifying or giving your own point of
So,
view.
yeah. So actually,
Listen and
again, the
seek.
the listening comes in again, where most people don't, and it's really difficult when you're so used to doing that to change yourself, and you have to keep reminding yourself, oh, you did that wrong. Let's try that again, you know. And yes, the listening is so important to understand what the other person is saying.
Having respect for yourself and others, having empathy for yourself and others, and having ownership, really, really taking that ability to respond determines the quality of your life. That ability to take ownership for something that you can change. You're not a victim if you can change it.
Yeah.
You're in control, right?
Yep.
And not to go into shame about it. The other thing is, I hear a lot of people going into shame. I shoulda, woulda, coulda, should have done it this way. I could have done it that way. And they go into shame and guilt around it. And as you know, I say this all the time, when you're in guilt about anything, it demands punishment. And so what you're attracting to you is punishment, whether it be from another person or you self sabotage.
S-
whenever you're feeling guilty.
Something I learned recently was instead of when you've done something that you feel that was wrong, instead of going into guilt and shame, say, because we make mistakes. Life is about mistakes and learning from your mistakes. So say to yourself, oh, I didn't do that the way I would have wanted to do that. That's okay. The next time around, I'll do better. And every time you do it and you keep reminding yourself, eventually you're going to do it right, according to how what is right for you.
Which
So
is exactly a way to say that is until recently, I
yes,
did that in a way I didn't want to.
until
I
recently,
wanna,
yes.
now I tend to do something differently. The other thing is to focus on what's working. Focus on what can be done, not what can't be done. A lot of
Mm,
people will go to that, it can't be done. So focus on, even if it's just a sliver when you're having conversation or communication, focus on what can be done instead of what can't be done. And that certainly will move you toward resolution with
right.
someone
Right.
and maybe choose to solve the issue or the problem that might be in front of you and build the relationship. If you go into a conversation or communication with that attitude, I want to build the relationship. So choose to solve the issue and again, focus on what can be done. And that way you feel a little bit less on edge or defensive, and you'll be able to have a conscious, peaceful communication.
Lovely. So now we go into our subconscious mind.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You did that.
Oh,
Yeah,
we did
you
it.
did that. Yeah. When I feel not heard,
Oh,
when I
that
feel
was
not
what this.
seen,
Okay,
when
got
I
it.
feel understood. So the subconscious part of that is to go back to that, if we had, I teach, we really dig around in that. There's a lot of other questions to ask, but you can say, what did your parents teach you about communication? What did you learn from your mom about relationships?
Mm,
What did you hear? What did you learn about your dad from your dad about how does a man treat a woman? How does a woman treat a man? How do you speak and communicate? What did you learn from religion? There's a lot of different things we can go through around your subconscious and where it came from. But I just wanted to give you a little taste
got it.
of your knee jerk reaction of this is how I feel and this is what I do. But I learned to do that at a very young age, and it continues because your beliefs are eternal until they are rebelieved.
True.
And yeah, so
Yeah.
what you have done when you went through and you did that and you said I'm angry, sad, and try to explain and justify myself, those things may still work for you and they may not. Eventually, you're going to get tired of feeling angry and sad. And so you're choosing a different way of approaching things and looking at it differently from a conscious point of view. And
Yes.
so that's what I was bringing up. So those of you who are doing that, when you wrote it down, you could write down when I feel not heard, when I feel not seen, when I feel misunderstood. What did you hear when you were young, when you were from your mom and your dad? What did you hear from your caregivers, from religion, from your siblings about you? What models did you have? And we hold on to those. We take them on. The other thing that we do is we booby trap ourselves. This is the other cool thing about subconscious beliefs is we have booby traps
Yeah.
that we forget what we're doing. Like a lot of times we'll say things like, I'm sick and tired. Or we'll say, give me a break. Or I can't do this. Or I'm never going to be able to do this. Or poor baby. Or I'm losing my mind. These are things we're saying out loud, and these words have a vibration, and the vibration actually continues and it repeats itself and it goes into the subconscious. And so when you say I'm always broke, or if you say I'm bored, or if you say, I can't afford, or I'm dying to do this, or my back is killing me. These are booby traps. These are things that we say without even thinking about it. And it's not intentional that we're saying it, but it can be very not a good thing for us to say, for us to continue to be conscious with our words, because our words, again, mean something.
They carry
And our thoughts
vibration.
mean something.
Yes.
Say again?
They carry vibrations, and you might be doing a self-fulfilling prophecy if you keep saying
Yeah.
it over and over again. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm only human, or sick as a dog, blind as a bat, all of these things that we say, and we're not even realizing what we're saying. It's because it's in our subconscious, it's in the nomenclature of our world, and we just say it. Money doesn't grow on trees. We know what that means, and so we're affirming that.
Yeah.
So I would suggest, if you want to just play with this even more, is write down your booby traps. When you feel like you're saying something that perhaps is not serving you, and you catch yourself saying it, then that's cool to write down all of your booby traps and be mindful of how you speak and what you say, because like you said, the vibrations of those words mean something.
Yes.
And it continues. So to be able to shift your consciousness when it happens is powerful, and you can choose to speak differently about yourself and to yourself and to others.
This has been so amazing. We've learned so many things today, Burge, so many tools that we can use. And I'm definitely going to use, I know you've already taught me these things. I've already been using it, but it's a good refresher to remind oneself, right? But you do have classes and you have a lot of things going on. I would love for you to tell the audience what you offer and how they can contact you or connect with you to learn more about so many other topics.
Thank you, Saju. Yes. If you go to essenceofbeing.com, that has pretty much everything that we do. The other thing that I invite everyone to play with us is to come on our Tuesday night calls at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. These are free for you to come onto and be part of our Conscious Leadership Academy, and just to be working through these conscious topics throughout, and keeps you focused. It keeps you on purpose and keeps you thinking about these things and giving you more tools to play with. If you go to essenceofbeing.com/CLA preview, then that way you can register just to be on the calls with us anytime, every Tuesday night, and look at the whole academy to see what we are cooking up for you to come in person or online. But it's a community, it's a global community of people. We've been teaching, since 1981, but Essence of Being for 31 years now. And we have people in all the 6 continents that are playing. So come play with us on the calls. And hey, you can still come to the cruise. It's October 21st to the 28th.
Yes.
I'm not sure when this airs, but we're going to be on our High Vibes on the High Seas cruise. And we do a lot of different spiritual retreats. And Saju I've had the privilege of having her come to Italy with us, and now she's going to do the cruise with us too. So I'm excited about that.
Very excited.
Check out essenceofbeing.com.
Of course, we'll have all those links in the information section so that everyone can, come to check everything out there. And it's an amazing, amazing Essence of Being is amazing. I've learned a lot. Thank you so much for being here with me again. And I know we'll do this again with another topic very soon. And once again, thank you. Thank you for doing this work, and thank you for being such a beautiful leader and helping everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Saju. Really appreciate you. Thank you.
Quest for Peace, a podcast about navigating outer chaos with inner harmony. Whether you're seeking solace in the midst of life's challenges, or simply curious about the profound connection between inner and outer peace, the Quest for Peace podcast is your guide on this transformative expedition.